start. Where are you now, Maj? You still in France, or you went back home? Or
Yeah, correct. We have the exams next week, so I'm still in France.
and you have exam next week? Because I have students who study at ESSEC, and today was the last day for them. So you have one more week than them. So thank you very much, Maj, because I know that you're very busy. What does that make to be at HEC and to live in Jean Josas?
So to be at HEC, actually, it really this program, I think it is what I wanted actually. So it really lived to my expectation, I could say, and in some cases, I would say even exceeded it. I had like huge expectations for this program. So I think being at HEC, it's first of all, it's great pleasure for me. I'm really enjoying the program. I'm really enjoying the school. I'm really enjoying the classmates. And I think it really has this. It's really the program that perfectly fits anyone that wants to elevate a career in a relatively short amount of time, and get this global perspective, I would say, since we have the alumni mostly actually in London. So I would say it's really, you're staying in France, yeah, you're staying in continental Europe, but you have really this insight to all the markets that are important for Europe. And then to be in jury and Josas, it's actually some people don't like it. I personally I like it a lot, since it's a great mix of being in a big city, so being just 20 minutes away from Paris, but still living in a suburb. So it's a bit, life is not as stressful, and it's not as crowded here. So I would say it's a great mix.
Do you enjoy the campus, Maj? Do you enjoy the campus or not?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the great benefits, especially. I mean, most of the other schools that are well ranked, I would say, they have like campuses, or not even campuses. They just have like some buildings in the middle of cities, and this is, I think, what makes HEC so special. It's like the huge campus, which is basically an safe area where you can, I don't know, go for a walk in the middle of the night if you wish. You can. We have, I think, 2 football fields, a rugby field, many tennis courts, and this is all on campus. And people really don't realize it's really a huge plus, I think.
Yeah, you have the nicest campus in Europe. Huh? You know that there's something called the MBA tournament, so that gathers the top 20 best business schools, and it is organized at HEC because HEC has all the facilities to organize the mini Olympics. Huh? That's it. And so you said that you're 20 minutes from Paris. Do you live on campus, or do you live in Paris and you commute? What do you do?
No, I live on campus, and I think it's great. I would advise everyone to do so. I know it's for international students, so I mean, international means everyone but French. It's granted, and French students generally have to find their own accommodation. But I mean, most of them live just outside of campus.
Okay. So basically, yes, that's something. Of course, that's something to do. So, can you tell us about the structure of the HEC and MIF program, so that people understand how it works, how it is structured, and the assets of these programs?
Right. So it's a very concentrated program. So it's only 9 months. Starts late August every year, I think. And then you have 2 terms in fall. So I'm just finishing my second one. I would be twice for around 2 months, I would say. And it depends a little bit on whether you choose to go for accelerated track. So you have 4 options at HEC. You have to decide upon 2 factors, either accelerated business track and either capital markets or corporate finance specialization. So you basically have 4 little brackets that everyone fits in. So your schedule will really depend upon which of those 4 brackets you're in. But generally, the structure is pretty much the same. It's mostly the courses that will be slightly different. But I mean, to be very honest, I think it's really minor, very, very minor difference. So I personally, I'm an accelerated track for corporate finance specialization. So I have so now it's my second term, and then in spring I will have electives for January through April, then a certificate, and so I'll be hopefully done May 25th, which is pretty nice, meaning that you can then start your summer internship or whatever from June 1st, which is, I would say, pretty nice. It's pretty early.
Yeah. So, and so you have many students in your situation. How useful is HEC regarding job search? I heard that it is pretty impressive. Does it meet your expectations or not?
Yeah, I mean, so we have that very important thing. It was in September, which it's called London study trip. So it's really when you have one concentrated week to spend in London, and they would arrange all the company visits, the networking cocktails. It's really intense, but it adds a lot to the job search. We are being supported constantly by the career center. So you would receive mails on a weekly basis, let's say, on which companies are recruiting at the moment, what are the positions that could suit you. And we have this platform called Handshake, which basically analyzes your profile and suggested tailor fit job offers that would be very well suited for your specific profile. So I think that on that side it's great. But then on the other hand, it's also a lot is up to you, of course, right? So how much time, how much effort do you invest in your job search? What are you even looking for? So I would say, I mean, people tend to say that this year it's pretty slow market, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's every year that it's not everyone gets an offer in before Christmas, right? So I would say, yeah, maybe half of my classmates have an offer already and half not. So that's kind of the split at the moment.
And tell me, when is the deadline basically to get an offer? There is a deadline, or there's no
No,
deadline.
no, there is no.
There's no deadline. And you have you received something, an offer already?
I do have, but it's more from the corporate finance side. So it's in a multinational consumer good company for like a CFO track. So it's finance leaders program. And I'm just continue the search, and we'll see how it ends at the end.
Yeah, but at the same time, it can be a good thing, to be a CFO, Maj. Maybe it would be a great career for you. Okay, because
Yeah.
basically what you're looking for, we wrote in the essays that you want to be an M&A analyst, then you want to work in private equity. If you're running your own private equity fund, is this still what you want to do, ideally, or have you changed your mind?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm actually really not really keen to go in the private equity, but on the real estate side, which is also why for me this part's been a bit slow, because most of the companies are haven't, except for the really bulge bracket ones, which only have very limited positions in real estate. They haven't really started recruiting that much for let's say summer or fall. Most of the positions now were for February, which is not a great suit for us. And that's why I'm basically quite comfortable with the offer I have. But I really, at the moment, I'm focusing on the networking side for the real estate to really step up the game in February, when the most of the real estate for fall and summer will open. So yeah, that's kind of the plan. And also with my background in hotels, I've been in touch with some hotel private equity funds that invest mostly in the hotel assets. So that would be nice as well. So we'll see then.
Yeah. I'm sure that there's a lot to do in the hotel industry. So basically, if I can recall, the program according to you has two, probably three assets: the campus, support to find a job. What about the teachers? I've heard that it's a big asset at the HEC. The teachers are really outstanding. Tell me more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, I remember first day stepping in class, and it was my first lecture, and the teacher would introduce himself as having a double PhD, one from MIT Sloan and one from Chicago Booth, having worked in hedge funds in US, and that was my first teacher that ever introduced himself here. I think it's really amazing because HEC is looking to hire a lot of teacher with US experience. So either an MBA at one of the top universities there, or having worked there. So I think this is really what they are doing great. And of course, I mean, there are not every teacher has such a track record, right? But they are really trying to match the best teachers for the positions or for the courses. So yeah, I mean, for corporate finance side, I would say we have actually a lot of teachers from the our practitioners from the French background, since the M&A here is been very strong historically, right? And then on the capital markets and corporate finance side, I think that's where we would have mostly professors, so PhD holders from the US, and with experience in really very, very well-known companies and very reputable companies.
So that's okay. That's what you have. It's very good. So tell me, what did you get at HEC that you did not expect?
That's a good one. Maybe I didn't really. So I knew that the classmates were gonna be. So I was expecting a certain level. I would say I knew that there were gonna be smart people in class with me, but I was really overwhelmed with the really level of classmates. Since I mean, in a bachelor's program, it's always that some people are there because they want to be there, and some people are there because they're motivated. And then on the other hand, you in the bachelor's program, you always have people who just didn't know really what to do, and that's why they are there. They don't know really what they're doing, and they are just kind of cruising along with the bachelor's. And I would say here it's really different, because I would say everyone here knows exactly what they're doing. They know what the goal is. They know how to get to the goal, and that's I would say it's a totally different level of classroom vibe than at the bachelor's program. I mean, and that's why I think this is a huge difference between the business schools which have competitive application system, and some universities which are willing to accept basically everyone, and then the selection would happen within the first semester, I assume. And that's what I think it makes so much better, those programs that are selective, because that means that all your classmates will know exactly why they are sitting in the class, and you can learn from them, you can share the contacts. It's really something that I didn't expect it to this level.
Yeah, sure. Because of course, do you have an idea of the selectivity of the program? It's what, 1 out of 20? You have an idea?
Yeah, I think it's around 5%, correct?
Yeah, it's about 5%. So tell me, so who are your classmates? Who are your friends? What are your friends? Who are your friends? What is their background? What do they want to do? Have they already found an internship? Tell me.
So I have I'm a bit so I would say two pillars. First one is the Swiss one. So because I did my university in Switzerland, a lot of my friends here are actually Swiss or having studied in Switzerland. So we have this small community. It's also very beneficial for a job search, especially because Swiss markets is very slow. So there haven't been many offers so far for the summers or for off-cycle internships. Maybe UBS, they are an exception, but that would be mostly it. Nobody else in Switzerland is really publishing an off-cycle starting in September, I don't know, 11 months before. And that's why I would say this is one pillar that we can really sit together, share the contacts, talk to people on video calls, and try to already do the networking now up front, and then when the position is really open in March, April, that we are ready then to have a very strong profile when we apply. And then I would say on the second pillar, a lot of my friends are actually from the capital market side, which it's because I'm in the accelerated track. There is very minor difference, right? In the I have an ex-classmate of mine who is also in MIF, and he's actually in business track. So we are two people with pretty much the same background, one in the accelerated and one in business track. And it's because those tracks are really so similar. But in the accelerated track, you would have more people with capital markets background, whereas in the business track, you would have more people with corporate finance background. So I would say that's why on the second side, actually, I made a lot of friends with people from asset management, hedge funds that I didn't really know before. Especially at my bachelor's, that was very exotic thing. So yeah, I would say those are the two pillars: Switzerland and the capital markets.
Okay, now tell me, out of 100, what careers are they going to take? Because of course, most of my students, when they apply, they want to become an M&A analyst and equity. But in reality, what is it? Because of course, I don't know the final decision. Out of 100, what do they go for 100? You have a pretty good idea now, given the internship. So how many go for M&A directly? 50%, not even? How many?
I mean, to be honest, from what I have seen so far, the ones that have offers, that would be 80-90% IB. It's really here. I would say it's even stronger than I have actually the job report from last year, and I think it says the first one is IB even before so it means more advisory side. It means it's either global advisory or IB M&A, yeah, but it would be
Okay.
IB first one.
And then also from far, so because I'm going to write I'm taking note because I'm going to write an article after that. After that, Maj, 10% P, right equity, or what do you do?
Yeah. That would be, so I would say generally first, if we do a split of capital markets and corporate finance, right? Because that's kind of important to split first. I would say it's around 75% on the corporate finance side, and then around 25-30% on capital markets. But the big difference at the moment is the amount of offers on corporate finance side is much greater, because also for the capital markets, recruitment is a bit slower as well. So the offers are still coming. And the corporate finance side, traditionally for London bulge bracket, it's very fast. The summer internship, they recruit for a year up front. And I would say most of the people with the offers not so far, they have an IB offer, but those positions, because IB, there are not that many positions, right? That is now closed. And I would say the offers that are coming now, it's more M&A boutiques, M&A advisory, smaller companies that would strictly do M&A. So I would say the second group would be that. Then maybe 10% private equity. There are a few graduate programs. There is the partners group. There is some summer internships for private equity. However, we've been basically warned that unless it's a graduate program, the chances of conversion in private equity are fairly small, right? So yeah, that's why a lot of people actually decide really to push for IB instead of private equity. And then I would say 5-10% would be the corporate finance roles. So either some CFO track programs, future leaders, etc.
So basically corporate finance positions in companies, normal corporate finance.
Okay. But mostly it would be like the multinational firms. We have a lot of those, graduate programs where they would actually guarantee you a certain level of promotions within certain period if you meet these factors. So I don't know, especially the French companies, but not just French. We have a couple of American companies as well, and yeah. But of course, HEC has the strong partnerships with these two French conglomerates, the LVMH and Kering Group. So they have a lot of programs on different sides, not just finance, but also management. So, I mean, that's very popular here.
So basically, what you mean is that, and they will work for these big companies. Yeah, because as a student, because some students don't want to work in M&A because it's long work hours. So and that's why they decide to go into a corporate finance program, but in Fortune 500. Now, basically, we have two students here, and something I'm trying to explain to my students is that in most cases, if you want to go for a top MIF, something of HEC, ACP, NBS, roughly, they want some prior experience in investment banking. I remember that you have some type of experience there. Okay, so what is the background of the people who are with you in terms of studies, professional experience, nationality? I mean,
Yeah, so I had not, it was not really investment banking, but I worked on the M&A side at one of the Swiss banks in Geneva, and then I worked on this hotel investment firm. So I you know, they are not really asking for the necessary investment banking. It also depends which university or your background is, right? Because a lot of bachelor's program, they're not just not qualified. If you are not from a target school for a bulge bracket IB firm, then you just don't have chances really. So unless you did, I don't know, an LSE, it's a very popular school where people actually have a lot of great experiences before they join HEC. But I mean, from some school, it's perfectly fine, especially there are a lot of quantitative background people. So coming from the famous École Polytechnique over here or some other polytechnical schools, and they have no little to no experience, let's say, in finance. So it really depends, but more that your program is finance oriented or business oriented, more experience you are supposed to have, right? So if you are coming from a background different from finance and you have a good story, so let's say, and you're going for an accelerated track, I would say it's not necessary. It's good to show that you've worked in finance and you know what you're talking about. But yeah, especially we have people here who studied mathematics before, physics, engineering, and they've done maybe a summer internship and nothing more, right? So they just done one experience and they decided to come here to really elevate this finance profile. And then on the other hand, if you're coming from a very reputable bachelor's program, they would expect you, as exactly as you said, to have some experience, and I think it adds a lot of value, not just with admissions, but especially afterwards when you're applying for a job upon graduation. Because as I said before, the market is slow, and you can really see that people who are getting the offers first, they've had a year or two of experience before. So I think it can really, the experience, they can elevate your value in the job market afterwards. So you can really start with bulge bracket straight after graduation. And if you don't have any experience before, you will probably have to start in a smaller company, work a couple of internships, and then you will be able to apply or seriously be considered for a bulge bracket job.
Okay, so in terms of, so you say that in terms of academic, it's very diverse, but of course they are all good students. But you, for instance, you say hotel management. You have colleagues, classmates who come from I don't know, physics background. Yeah, okay, so they come from different backgrounds, but many come from business school. Huh? You agree? Many have a bachelor in business, probably half of them. Yes, there's some type of experience. In terms of international exposure, how many are French? How many non-French?
I think it's a good mix. I don't know exact numbers, but from what I remember, it would be around 20 to 25% French. So it's basically, I feel like the program is really super international, especially compared to the bachelor's. And I mean, my bachelor was, I guess, pretty international compared to some of the bachelors. And I can still say that this master program is I mean, probably you cannot, unless you're choosing Germany or UK or Spain, then you probably don't have more than 4 students from any country, and you have really students from some countries that I wasn't really used of during bachelor's.
Like which country?
So Scandinavia, that was the area that my bachelors were really missing. I didn't have any classmates from Finland, Sweden, Norway. And actually here we have a lot of Norwegian students. I mean, a lot, proportionally. So apparently it's pretty strong country for finance work. And I mean, they have those sovereign wealth fund, they have a couple of other companies. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty nice to have really the coverage from Europe and also beyond. I mean, we have around 5 or 6 American students. We have some Indian, African, well, I mean, from everywhere, quite a lot of Chinese ones as well. And we have, I think, 2 Australians.
Okay, 2 Australians as well. Yeah, it's pretty rare. But the program is so good that, of course, you attract people from all over. So now we have 2 students. So we have Nico. I saw that we have Saad, and we have so Sandeep works for us. We have Ariane as well. Basically, Nico. So you're going to apply. By the way, you're from Switzerland yourself. I met Maj when he was at EHL because Maj studied in Lausanne for 3 or 4 years. I forgot. I don't know. He was a Lausanne student. What is the question that you have? By the way, Nico, don't forget to send your application. You have 2 weeks to send your application. You're still working on your GMAT. Alors, Nico.
Well, yeah. First of all, thank you, Dr. Hubert, for the event, and congratulations to Matt for HEC. So my question, I've of course many questions, but I will start with like what were the main requirements you think for HEC Paris, and what do they really look at for like in Swiss students?
So I mean, I would say it probably depends. So if you are, I would say it depends where from Switzerland. I mean, mostly we only have from what I know here, and also for the MIM program, I think there are only 2 schools represented here from Switzerland. That would be St. Gallen in first place and EHL in the second one. I don't really know. I don't think there is anyone from any other university in Switzerland. And I would say for those 2 schools, it's very different. So if you are from St. Gallen, they would be really looking at some differentiation factors because they really have a huge number of St. Gallen students applying for this master. And actually, a few of my best friends here now are all from St. Gallen. And they said that basically what the most importantly for them was to really show how they can stand out from the crowd and how they can differentiate why they have, let's say, better potential, to prove that they have better potential than, I don't know, 95 of the peers from the same program, from the same school, from the same great experiences, then, so to really stand out in some point. I would say that would be, from what I've heard, at least. So I'm not from, as Dr. Huber said, I'm from the other school, from Lausanne. But yeah, I would say that would be probably the most important.
By the way, you have HEC Lausanne. You studied in St. Gallen. Do you have students from St. Gallen, Maj? Do you have St. Gallen students?
Yeah, I mean that would be the first big group from Switzerland. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because Nico is from St. Gallen.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, because they also have this double degree with SIM. So we have, I think, around 10 students who do SIM, and then they do the MIF. So it's kind of a 2-year something, the blend or whatever.
Yeah. When you're in St. Gallen, but when you do the SIMs, you have to do the MIM. You can do the SIMs MIF as well. You can do the MIF as a SIMs. I thought that it was for the MIM only.
No, not the SIMs. The SIM, the strategy and the strategy and international management. I think it's called like that.
That's just one. Yeah, because they have a master in business. They have a master in business, finance, and business. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the question that you have. By the way, Nico, have you taken your GMAT finally, or when will you take it, or what score did you get? Because we finished the application long ago, last summer. Nico?
Yes, so I will do my GMAT in mid-January.
Mid-January?
Yeah.
So you okay? Well, I hope that it will work well. So that's the question that you have. I don't know, Sad, you have a question for Maj?
Yes, I do. First of all, I want to thank you really for testimonial and a lot of useful information. And I just have a question. Personally, I don't have a strong experience in finance. My only experience is in accounting because I'm doing a CPA right now. And how do you think, like, how can I compensate this lack of experience and maybe with a strong GMAT or with a prior knowledge of finance, because I studied finance on my current program. So
Yeah. So I mean, so first of all, I would say HEC has 3 finance programs, right? I mean, the MIF is the flagship ones, but there is also finance and accounting one and economics and finance one. So there is not just one finance program at HEC, and I think that's kind of important to mention as well, since, for instance, I'm not sure if you're really now only targeting MIF, but you can always at HEC submit a second choice for basically the same application. So you can always put an accounting and finance in the second place, let's say, and that would make kind of a lot of sense from what I'm hearing. But for MIF, I mean, it's definitely the most competitive one by far. And yeah, as you said, I mean, one option is the amazing GMAT. I know people here personally very well that had like 780 or 790 and they didn't have any prior experience, but because of this crazy GMAT, they were basically able to get in. That would be one option. Yeah. I mean, it's probably you still have to have a really good story to, that's what admissions are looking for. But yeah, I mean, it can help. So I personally, I did the M&A accounting, so it was mix of. So I also didn't really have the deal background, right? So I tried to present it in a way that so what I was doing and the last stage of M&A and try to present it in a way that it kind of correlates with the goals of your goals in the future and how the program can help you to get there. That's what I would say.
okay, and actually, why I wanted to do the MIF is that one of the associates of the program is actually a CPA, and he graduated from France, so he's doing the same program, even the same school as the one I'm doing. So that is why I developed some kind of confidence to apply for this specific program. So I don't see how it can be an obstacle.
No. I mean, it's not an obstacle for sure, but I mean, I'm just saying that from the jobs that I see and from the previous year jobs report, I mean, let's say an auditing jobs or financial planning and controlling, those would not be target jobs for MIF at all. Those would be target jobs for math, so master in economics and finance, or master in accounting and finance. So I'm just saying that you will have to make a good story on why the CPA, if you don't want to work in accounting or financial planning and controlling, why did you invest? Because it's a huge investment, right? And I mean, on one hand, I know I used to compare myself with some people who got accepted before, but you cannot really do it because there are so many factors that admissions look at that it's really impossible to say now because this guy got in and has pretty much the same profile, that means I'm going to get in, It doesn't work like that because you don't know who other people applying to the program in a specific year, and not just in a specific year, but in a specific deadline are, So it really depends on those factors as well. And I mean, yeah, that's just what my concern is a bit, that it's not really suited for the target jobs of MIF, but it would be, so you would need a good story and you would need to really explain why this investment if MIF is your target program.
Okay.
Well, basically, the question that we have this year are slightly different. You see, Maj, and it will be very difficult to tell you a story because one question is about why HEC. So you have basically to explain what you like at HEC. The second one is about, yes, your career goals, or maybe here you can develop your story, even though it's pretty standard. The last one is about the World Banks. It's about the World Bank. So there's a question about the World Bank. So what I want to say is that in the HEC MIF program, it's very difficult to develop your own story, but that's something that I will keep in mind. Because even though the DSA seems to be a bit neutral, yeah, you can always put your own story. But I think, tell me, I heard that the interview, because me, I prepare students for interviews. We prepare the interview, the HEC interview, so we prepare the technical part. I'm not a finance guy, so I'm very, but I'm doing my best. And so, what is the interview like? Because I've heard that the interview at HEC is very, very, very difficult, very challenging. I don't say, but very challenging.
I mean, here, we really have to separate the accelerated track interviews and the business track interviews. So it's a totally different structure. So if you're applying for the accelerated track, they kind of assume and understand that you have this strong interest. Maybe you've done an internship, but they understand that you are not really fully yet prepared to answer the tough M&A or IB questions. So if you are applying for accelerated track, and that's what I did, right? And that's indeed what happened. Then your interview is much more about the story, how this program is going to help you get there where you want to be. Specific questions about your CV. So for instance, what I got, questions about your bachelor's program, why you and not 95% of people who will be rejected. How are you going to deal with challenges, challenging situations in the past, let's say. And then on the other hand, if you're applying to the business track, then yes, I think it's one of the, if not the hardest Master in Finance pre-experience interview out there. And there it's really like questions from the book called 400 Investment Banking Questions or something like that. It's the Wall Street Prep, and they are basically using those questions. So you would get at least 3 of the very hard technical questions.
Okay, that's the thing to do. Alors, so there's Ayushman who is there as well. So Ayushman, you have a question to ask? Ayushman?
Hello, Maj. Hi. First of all, congratulations for your admission to HEC. So I just like to ask you one thing. How's the, like Dr. Hubert Light only recently talked about that. How was the admission interview process when you just applied for the interview for the MIF program in HEC? So how was the whole procedure?
He told you how it works. Yes. So the whole procedure is like for any MIF. So can you explain the procedure in 1 minute, Raj?
Yeah. I mean, are you business or accelerated track?
No, I'm business oriented.
Okay,
I've done my bachelor's in finance only.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, then you can really expect the similar to any IB interview. So it would be maybe a question or two, but really 2-3 minutes about yourself or your background. So like, of course, they always ask you introduce yourself to us quickly. And then the second question would probably be like, how is this program going to help you get to your goal, to your dream job, let's say. That is what they usually ask. And then straight afterwards would be the technicals.
Okay, so there's always the technical part in the MIF ones rather than when there are non-technical. When some of my friends and some of my colleagues, they also applied for the MIM programs at the HEC. Okay. So they have just got generalized questions and in the interview. So that's why I'm just a bit curious.
That would be for the accelerated track. So if you don't have previous, so if your background is in physics and you've done an amazing GMAT and you've done a summer internship, let's say in a hedge fund, and you apply for HEC, of course, they're not going to be asking you the technical question of the investment banking, right? But if your background is in finance, if your bachelor's is in finance, then you're a perfect candidate to get the very tough questions from the IB style.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maj. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Basically, the other question is that Maj, you got the LBS and HEC. Remember that you thought that you would never work, and then finally you got HEC. why did you prefer HEC to LBS?
Yeah. So for me, there were like multiple factors. I would say, first one would be kind of academic reputation one. So since my previous school was, let's say, not that strong in academic terms, I would say it was actually my bachelor school of my previous school was much more similar to LBS in terms of networking, career services. It was really the career comes first, and then the academics we put in the second place or on the back burner. And I wanted to really go to HEC because I thought it's a perfect mix, and this is really what I can confirm now, that it's a perfect balance between the career path, so the career side, and the academic side. So it's not going to be just the networking and the nice dinners and everything. So you're going to learn something actually. I would say that was the biggest downside from the feedback I got about the LBS. I really thought, okay, you are paying quite a lot of money to be in London and to do some networking for 1 year. And that's why I would say that's why my biggest motivation was, right, to also learn something, especially since my bachelor was in hospitality management. I thought, okay, it would really be nice to get some additional finance skills. And yeah, I mean, but on the other hand, today I can really, from what I have seen so far, I think the LBS program is definitely the only one in Europe, I would say, that can compete with the HEC from the placement, from the people who come to assessment centers for investment banking jobs or private equity jobs. It's HEC, LBS, and then a bit from some other schools. But those are the two schools that I would say are by far the strongest in Europe.
Yeah. It's true that the school can compare. You see, Maj, now more and more I send students to the US as well, because Chicago has opened an MIF, Yale, they have a master in asset management, but it's a sort of MIF as well. NYU, they have a master in quantitative finance, of course. MIT master in finance. So we tend to send, I would say now 10% of our students will study their MIF in the US, which was not the case, and I hope that we're going to have like 1/3, okay? And of course, but there's not the same tradition, and you cannot expect as much. There's really this tradition especially in France, where you can train pre IB students, and they do a pretty good job. Okay, so that's but Chicago has opened a new. If you follow my post, Chicago has opened a new one. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is great, especially if you want to stay in the US, of course, because with the European school or European background, it will be very difficult. But if your goal is to work in Europe or work in London, I don't think it really matters that much,
Yeah, but what I want to say, Imad, is that all my students who I send like 2 per year to MIT, and all of them go back to Europe. I would think that if you're French or Belgium or German, and you are hired by Goldman Sachs will send you back to Europe. They don't keep you in America. They have enough people in America, I believe. Okay, so it's very rare that that you stay in Europe, that you stay in the US.
Okay.
Unless you want to do a CFO position, maybe what is this pretty more work. What else do I want to say to you? So we are going to end up here because I know that you're busy, Maj. It's always a pleasure to meet you. Remember the way we started our collaboration, and it was you trusted me. I remember you, and you have done so well. So how is Maximilian? Is doing well as well? Has he found an internship or not yet?
Not yet. Actually, we were, but it's a funny story because we were the last two candidates competing in this Finance Leaders of Tomorrow for the Fortune 500 company. So yeah, but I mean, he'll find something. He has the big advantage. He's French, right? So he's eligible for a lot of local jobs. So and I've seen like last 2 weeks there has been so many offers coming in from the local boutiques in Paris. So I'm pretty sure he will be able to sign for one of those.
Of course, I'm sure. So thank you very much, Maj. So if you have any question, don't hesitate to call Maj. You find Maj on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Anyway, there are only 3 students. I hope that Nico, Saad, Ayushman, that next year you'll be the one. And did you see, Ayushman, that now the director of MBA Center Pune is an LBS graduate, and the deputy director is a Warwick. So we tend to have very bright colleagues. I'm sure that he will work for you. So thank you very much, Maj. I will write a summary of all data as a post this evening. Have a good day. Bye, Maj. Thank you.
Thank you, Maj. Thank you.
And don't
Thank you very much.
don't hesitate to contact me on LinkedIn if you
So
need
Maj,
help.
Maj, ask me, but you find Maj HCC, you'll find him. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.